When 6 months pregnant Dee paid for a gorgeous stranger's declined meal with her last $38, she didn't know he was a Korean Mafia boss or that he'd become obsessed with finding the woman who'd sacrificed everything to help him. But 3 days later, when 20 black SUVs rolled up to her building and Sang-woo stepped out with $10,000, armed bodyguards, and eyes that made her pregnant body flush with heat she'd thought was dead, she realized her simple act of kindness had caught the attention of Austin's most dangerous man. Now she's falling for a crime lord, whose touch makes her forget she's broke and exhausted, whose enemies will kidnap her to force his surrender, whose traditional aunt will fly from Korea to call her a pregnant charity case who should disappear, and whose world of violence and power will either give her the family she desperately needs or destroy everything she's fought to build. But when Sang-woo looks at her swollen belly and whispers, "I want to be this baby's father," despite knowing it's another man's child, Dee realizes some love is worth dying for. This is going to be spicy. Subscribe as we dive in. The fluorescent lights of Rosie's diner buzzed overhead as Dee counted her crumpled bills for the third time. $42. That was all that stood between her and complete emptiness. She pressed one hand against her swollen belly, feeling her baby kick as if reminding her that giving up wasn't an option. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the small Austin diner, making her stomach growl despite the nausea that had been her constant companion for 6 months. She'd come here because it was the only place that served a decent meal for under $10, and right now, every penny mattered. 3 months ago, Marcus had walked out of their apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and a cruel smile. "I didn't sign up for this," he'd said, gesturing at her barely visible bump. "Figure it out yourself." Just like that, 3 years of her life had meant nothing. 3 years of believing his promises, of rebuilding herself after fleeing her controlling family in Rwanda, of thinking she'd finally found someone who loved her. All lies. Dee took a sip of her water, refusing to spend money on anything but the cheapest item on the menu. She'd already worked 2 cleaning jobs today, and her feet throbbed with exhaustion. Tomorrow she had 3 more lined up. Sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford, not when rent was due in a week and she was still short $200. "I'm telling you, none of them are working." The sharp voice cut through the diner's quiet atmosphere. Dee looked up to see a man at the counter, his back rigid with tension. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that looked completely out of place in the modest diner. His dark hair was styled immaculately, and even from behind, he carried himself with an authority that made everyone in the diner glance his way. The waitress, an older woman named Dorothy, shook her head sympathetically. "Honey, I don't know what to tell you. The card reader says all 3 cards are declined. Do you have cash?" The man's shoulders tensed even more. "I don't carry cash. There must be something wrong with your machine. Try again." Dee watched as Dorothy swiped the card once more, her face apologetic as it beeped with rejection. The man pulled out his phone, his jaw clenched tight as he made a call. From the sharp, clipped words in Korean that followed, Dee could tell something had gone very wrong. She didn't speak the language, but frustration sounded the same in any tongue. "Someone has frozen all my accounts," the man said finally, switching back to English. His voice was controlled, but Dee could hear the anger simmering beneath. "This will be resolved within the hour, but I need to make a call from somewhere private." "I'm sorry, but I can't let you leave without paying," Dorothy said, looking genuinely distressed. "It's not personal, it's just policy." The man closed his eyes, and for just a moment, his perfect composure cracked. Dee saw something she recognized in that expression. The helplessness of being trapped by circumstances beyond your control. Before she could think about what she was doing, she was standing up, walking toward the counter on aching feet. "Excuse me," she said softly. "How much is his bill?" Dorothy looked surprised. $38. But honey, you don't have to. I'll pay it. Dee pulled out her carefully counted bills and placed them on the counter. The man turned to look at her for the first time, and she felt her breath catch. He was younger than she'd expected, probably in his early 30s, with sharp features and eyes so dark they were almost black. Those eyes widened as they took her in. Her pregnant belly, her worn cleaning company uniform, her tired face. "You don't need to do this," he said, his accent slight but noticeable. "I can handle this situation." "I know I don't need to," Dee replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "But everybody needs help sometimes. No shame in that." She counted out $38, leaving her with exactly $4 to her name. The weight of what she'd just done hit her immediately, but she refused to let regret show on her face. Her grandmother had always said that kindness was the only thing that cost nothing and meant everything. Right now, looking at this stranger's stunned expression, she chose to believe that. Dorothy took the money with a knowing smile. "You're a good soul, Dee." The man's eyes never left her face. "Dee," he repeated, as if testing the name. "I'm Sang-woo. Please, I need your contact information. I will pay you back 10 times over." "That's not why I did it," Dee said, suddenly feeling self-conscious. This close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made her head spin. "Just pay it forward someday. Help somebody else, when they need it." She turned to leave, but his hand caught her wrist gently. The touch sent electricity up her arm, and from the way his eyes darkened, she knew he felt it too. "At least let me know how to find you, please. I don't leave debts unpaid." There was something in his voice, a steel underneath the politeness, that made her pause. This wasn't a man used to being told no. Against her better judgment, Dee pulled a napkin from the dispenser and borrowed Dorothy's pen. She scribbled her phone number quickly, already questioning her sanity. "You really don't have to," she said, handing him the napkin. "I know you're good for it. Anyone can have a bad day." Sang-woo took the napkin like it was made of gold, folding it carefully and placing it in his inner jacket pocket. "You have no idea what today has been," he said quietly. "But you just made it infinitely better. Thank you, Dee from Rwanda." Her eyebrows shot up. "How did you know?" "Your name. It's Igbo, but your accent has Kinyarwanda undertones." A small smile played at his lips, the first break in his serious expression. "I pay attention to details. It's how I've survived in my line of work." Before she could ask what that meant, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor shifted back to cold authority. "I have to take this, but I will call you. Soon." He answered the phone in rapid Korean, already walking toward the door. Dee stood there, watching him go, wondering what had just happened. Through the window, she saw a black car pull up immediately, as if it had been waiting. Sang-woo climbed in, still talking intensely on his phone, and the car sped away. "That was interesting," Dorothy said, appearing beside her with a knowing look. "That man is trouble, honey. But sometimes, trouble comes in attractive packages." Dee touched her belly, feeling the baby kick again. "I don't need trouble. I have enough of my own." "Who said anything about need?" Dorothy winked. "Sometimes life gives us what we don't know we're looking for." Dee returned to her table and ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, a bowl of soup. As she ate slowly, making it last, she tried not to think about the fact that she'd just given away almost all her money to a complete stranger. Tried not to think about his intense eyes, or the way her skin still tingled where he'd touched her wrist. Tried not to think about the obvious wealth in his clothes and car, the authority in his voice, the way everyone in that black vehicle had jumped to attention. Her phone was so old, it barely held a charge anymore, and she knew the chances of him actually calling were slim. Rich men didn't call back women like her. She'd learned that lesson with Marcus, who'd promised her the world and delivered nothing but heartbreak. But as she finished her soup and prepared to walk the 3 miles back to her apartment to save on bus fare, Dee couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The way Sang-woo had looked at her wasn't like the way Marcus ever had. There was respect in those dark eyes, and something else. Something that made her heart beat faster, despite every warning her brain was screaming. She stood up, adjusting her uniform and preparing herself for the long walk ahead. Her feet already hurt, and the baby was pressing on her bladder, but complaining changed nothing. This was her life now, working until her body gave out, counting every penny, hoping she could save enough before the baby came. As she pushed open the diner door, the autumn Austin air hit her face. Somewhere across the city, Sang-woo was probably already back in his world of luxury, dealing with whatever crisis had frozen his cards. He would forget about the pregnant woman who'd paid for his meal. That napkin with her number would end up in the trash, and life would go on. But Dee was wrong. At that exact moment, Sang-woo sat in the back of his car, the napkin clutched in his hand, telling his second-in-command Dong-hyun something that would change everything. Find out everything about her, but carefully. I don't want her scared, and fix whoever tried to freeze my accounts, permanently. Someone just made a very big mistake, and they chose the wrong day to do it. Today, someone showed me more kindness than I've seen in 10 years, and I'm going to make sure she never has to count pennies again. 3 days later, Dee would come home to find her entire street transformed, and the man from the diner would return to repay his debt in ways she never could have imagined. Dee's legs burned as she climbed the stairs to her 3rd-floor apartment. The elevator had been broken for 2 months, and the landlord kept promising to fix it next week. She'd learned that in this building, next week meant never. Her cleaning shift at the office complex had run late because someone had spilled coffee all over the conference room right before she was supposed to leave. That meant an extra hour of scrubbing for no extra pay. She fumbled with her keys, eager to collapse on her second-hand couch and soak her swollen feet. The baby had been kicking all day, as if protesting the constant movement. "I know, little one," she whispered, rubbing her belly. "Mama's tired too. Just a few more months, and then everything will be different." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. Nothing would be different. She'd be even more exhausted, with a newborn to care for, and even less time to work. She'd been trying not to think about it, pushing away the panic that threatened to swallow her whole whenever she let herself stop moving. As she pushed open her door, she heard her neighbor Mrs. Chen shouting from down the hallway. Dee, where have you been? You need to see what's happening outside." "What's wrong?" Dee dropped her bag, alarm flooding through her. "Is there a fire?" "No fire. Just come look." Mrs. Chen was practically bouncing with excitement, which was strange for a woman who usually complained about everything. Dee followed her to the hallway window that overlooked the street, and her heart stopped. The entire block was filled with black luxury cars. Not just a few, at least 20 of them, parked in perfect formation. Men in dark suits stood beside each vehicle, and residents of her building were gathered on the sidewalk, phones out, recording everything. "What is this?" Dee breathed. "Did something happen?" "They've been here for an hour," Mrs. Chen said, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "They asked the building manager which apartment is yours." "Girl, what did you do?" Terror shot through Dee's chest. Her mind immediately went to Marcus. Had he gotten involved with dangerous people? Was she about to pay for whatever stupid thing he'd done? She gripped the windowsill, her breath coming in short gasps. "I need to call the police," she said, pulling out her phone. "I don't think you want to do that," Mrs. Chen said slowly. "Look at the man standing in the middle." Dee looked. Even from 3 floors up, she recognized him immediately. Sang-woo stood in the center of the convoy, dressed in another immaculate suit, this one charcoal gray. He was looking up at the building, his phone to his ear. Her phone rang. Unknown number. With shaking hands, she answered. "Hello?" "Dee." His voice was warm, with a hint of amusement. "I can see you in the window. 3rd floor, correct? I'm coming up. Unless you'd prefer to come down." "What is all this?" Her voice came out higher than intended. "Why are there 20 cars on my street?" "I told you I pay my debts. I'm a man of my word." "Apartment 3C?" Before she could answer, he'd hung up. Dee turned to Mrs. Chen, her mind spinning. "I need to get to my apartment." She practically ran down the hallway, her exhaustion forgotten. Her hands fumbled with the keys as she heard footsteps on the stairs. Multiple sets of footsteps. She managed to get inside just as a knock sounded on her door. Taking a deep breath, Dee opened it. Sang-woo stood there, looking completely unbothered by the 3 flights of stairs. Behind him were 6 men carrying boxes, bags, and what appeared to be a small envelope. "May I come in?" Sang-woo asked, his dark eyes searching her face with an intensity that made her skin warm. "This is crazy," Dee said, but she stepped aside. "You didn't have to do all this. It was $38. You gave me your last money." Sang-woo walked into her small apartment, and suddenly the space felt even tinier. His presence filled the room. "Don't think I didn't notice. The way you counted those bills, the uniform you wore. You work at least 2 jobs, you're pregnant and alone, and you gave a stranger everything you had." Dee's cheeks burned. She didn't need his pity. "I'm fine. I don't need charity." "This isn't charity. This is repayment." He gestured, and his men began placing items on her kitchen counter. Groceries, expensive ones, fresh vegetables, fruits, premium cuts of meat. Then came household items, cleaning supplies, baby things, diapers, bottles, tiny clothes still in packages. "And this," he said, holding out the envelope, "is for any bills you might have. I can't accept this." But even as she said it, Dee's eyes were drawn to the baby items. She hadn't been able to buy a single thing yet. Every dollar went to survival. "Yes, you can." Sang-woo stepped closer, and she caught that woodsy scent again. "You showed me kindness when I needed it most. Do you know how rare that is? Most people, they see an opportunity to take advantage. You saw someone in trouble and helped. That means something." "Who are you?" The question burst out of her. "Really? Because normal people don't show up with 20 cars to say thank you." A smile tugged at his lips. "I'm someone who keeps his promises. That's all you need to know right now." He paused. "Have you eaten dinner?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "Dinner. Have you eaten?" "Because I own a restaurant and I'd like to take you there, to properly thank you, and maybe to get to know the woman brave enough to help a stranger." Every logical part of Dee's brain screamed that this was insane. She didn't know this man. The cars outside, the obvious wealth, the way his men followed his orders without question. It all pointed to something dangerous. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see danger. She saw genuine interest and something else. Something that made her pulse quicken. "I look terrible," she said, gesturing at her uniform. "I've been cleaning all day." "You look beautiful." The way he said it, simple and direct, made her believe he meant it. "But if you want to change, I'll wait. Take your time." Dee looked at the envelope still in his hand. "How much is in there?" "Enough. Don't worry about it." "I need to know. I don't want to owe anyone anything." Sang-woo's expression grew serious. "You owe me nothing. But if it makes you feel better, there's $10,000 in here. And before you refuse, think about your baby. Think about having a cushion for when the little one arrives. Think about maybe working 1 job instead of 3. $10,000. The number made her dizzy. That was more money than she'd seen in her entire life. It would change everything. But accepting it felt like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because 3 days ago someone tried to destroy me. They froze my accounts, tried to humiliate me, wanted to show that I was vulnerable." His jaw tightened. "That person learned a very painful lesson about what happens when you come after me. But in that diner, when I had nothing, you gave everything. That told me more about your character than most people reveal in years. So yes, I'm doing this because I want to. Because you deserve kindness returned to you." Dee took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside, she could see the neat stack of bills. Real money. Not a dream. She thought about the overdue electric bill, the rent she was short on, the baby items she desperately needed. Pride was expensive, and she was too tired to afford it anymore. "Okay," she said quietly. "Give me 20 minutes to change." Sang-woo's smile transformed his entire face. "Take all the time you need. I'll be right here." Dee went to her tiny bedroom and closed the door, leaning against it. Her heart was racing so fast, she thought it might burst from her chest. Through the thin wall, she could hear him talking quietly in Korean to his men. Whatever he was saying made them laugh softly, a warm sound that eased some of her tension. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror above her dresser. Her reflection showed exhaustion, worry lines that hadn't been there 6 months ago, and eyes that had seen too much disappointment. But underneath all that, she saw something else stirring. Hope. Dangerous, foolish hope. The only decent dress she owned was a simple black one that still fit over her belly. She changed quickly, ran a brush through her natural hair that she wore in a short, practical style, and applied a tiny bit of lip gloss she'd been saving. When she emerged, Sang-woo was examining the photos on her wall, pictures of her grandmother, her life in Rwanda before everything fell apart. "She has your eyes," he said, pointing to her grandmother's photo. "She raised me, taught me everything good I know." Dee's throat tightened. She always said that kindness was the only currency that mattered. She was right. Sang-woo turned to face her, and something flickered in his expression when he saw her. "You're stunning." The word hung in the air between them, charged with possibility. Dee felt heat rise to her cheeks. No one had called her stunning in a very long time. Certainly not while she was 6 months pregnant with another man's baby. "We should go," she said, needing to break the tension, "before the whole neighborhood calls the news." Sang-woo laughed, a rich sound that made her smile despite herself. "Too late. I'm pretty sure we're already trending on local social media." He offered his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, Dee took it. His muscles were solid under the expensive fabric of his suit, and she felt small next to his height, protected, in a way she hadn't felt in months. The walk down to the street was surreal. Neighbors watched from windows and doorways, phones out, capturing everything. The men in suits opened a car door. Not just any car, but a vehicle that probably cost more than Dee would make in 5 years. "This is too much," she murmured, as Sang-woo helped her inside. "Get used to it," he replied, sliding in beside her. "I don't do anything halfway." As the convoy pulled away from her building, Dee watched her neighborhood disappear through the tinted windows. She was entering a world she didn't understand, with a man who was clearly powerful and dangerous. Every survival instinct told her to run, but when Sang-woo's hand brushed against hers on the seat between them, and he laced their fingers together with a questioning look, she didn't pull away. Instead, she squeezed back, letting herself fall into whatever this was. The restaurant was unlike anything Dee had ever seen. Located in downtown Austin, it occupied the entire top floor of a sleek building with views of the city that took her breath away. The interior was all dark wood and soft lighting, with private booths separated by rice paper screens. A woman in an elegant dress greeted Sang-woo with a deep bow, speaking rapid Korean before leading them to a secluded corner booth. "You own this?" Dee asked, sliding into the plush seat. The leather was buttery soft, probably more expensive than her entire apartment's furniture combined. One of several businesses. Sang-woo sat across from her, and in the dim lighting, his features looked sharper, almost dangerous. "I'll be honest with you, Dee. I'm not just a businessman. My organization handles things that exist in gray areas. Security, protection, import, and export. Some of it legal, some of it walking the line." Her stomach clenched. "You're telling me you're a criminal?" "I'm telling you I operate in a world with different rules, and I'm telling you because I don't want to lie to you. You deserve honesty." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "If that makes you want to leave, I'll have you driven home right now. No judgment." Dee should leave. Everything logical said to walk away from this man and his dangerous life. But she thought about the kindness in his eyes when he'd noticed her worn uniform, the way he'd made sure to include baby items with the groceries, the fact that he was being honest instead of hiding what he was. "I'm not leaving," she said quietly. "But I need to understand. Why me? You could have anyone. I'm pregnant with another man's baby, broke, and come with more problems than solutions. Because you're real." The intensity in his voice made her shiver. "Do you know how many people approach me every day wanting something? Money, protection, favors. Everyone has an angle. But you, in that diner, you had nothing to gain. You just saw someone who needed help and you helped. That's rare. That's precious." A server appeared with dishes Dee couldn't identify, beautiful presentations of food that looked like art. Sang-woo explained each one, his voice warm as he encouraged her to try everything. The flavors exploded on her tongue. Korean barbecue, kimchi, delicate dumplings, things she'd never tasted before. "Tell me about Rwanda," Sang-woo said as they ate. "What brought you to Texas?" Dee hesitated, but something about the private booth and his genuine interest made her want to share. "My family. They're very traditional. When I turned 21, they wanted to arrange a marriage to a man I'd never met. A man who was 40 years old and already had 2 wives. I refused, and that wasn't acceptable. So I saved everything I could, and I ran. Got a visa for school, came here, and decided I was never going back. That takes courage." Sang-woo's expression was respectful. "Starting over in a new country with nothing. Or stupidity," Dee said with a bitter laugh. "I thought I was being smart when I met Marcus. He was charming, promised me everything. Turned out he was just good at lying. The moment I got pregnant, he showed me who he really was. He's a fool." The steel in Sang-woo's voice was unmistakable. "Any man who would walk away from you deserves whatever karma brings him." The conversation flowed easier than Dee expected. Sang-woo told her about growing up in Korea, losing his parents in a car accident when he was 16, being raised by his uncle who ran the organization, how he'd been sent to America to expand operations 5 years ago and had built something powerful here. "But it's lonely," he admitted, pouring her more water since she couldn't drink the wine he'd ordered for himself. "Everyone who knows me either fears me or wants something from me. Real connection, actual friendship, or anything more. That's impossible when people only see your power." "Is that why you never married?" The question slipped out before Dee could stop it. Sang-woo's lips curved into a half smile. "I never found someone worth changing my life for, until maybe now." The air between them charged with electricity. Dee's breath caught as his hand reached across the table, his fingers tracing the back of her hand with a feather-light touch that sent sparks up her arm. "This is crazy," she whispered. "We barely know each other." "Then let's get to know each other. I'm not expecting anything, Dee. I just want the chance to see where this goes. If you'll give me that chance." She should say no. She should protect herself and her baby from this complicated, dangerous man. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that called to her. The same loneliness she felt, the same hunger for genuine connection. "One chance," she said. "But if you hurt me, if you turn out to be another Marcus, I won't." The conviction in his voice was absolute. "I've done many things I'm not proud of, but I don't lie to people I care about. And I'm starting to care about you very much." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of conversation and stolen glances. Sang-woo was funny in a dry way that caught her off guard. He asked about her dream of opening a catering business, and instead of dismissing it like Marcus always had, he asked detailed questions about her plans, her recipes, what she would need to make it happen. "My grandmother's recipes," Dee said, her eyes lighting up. "She taught me everything. Rwandan food, but with my own twist. I know I could make it work if I just had the capital to start." "You will," Sang-woo said with such certainty that she almost believed him. "I can see it. You have the passion, the skill, the drive. All you need is the opportunity." When the dinner ended, Dee expected him to take her home. Instead, Sang-woo suggested a walk through the nearby park. The autumn air was cool, but not cold, and the city lights reflected off the lake in shimmering patterns. "Thank you for tonight," Dee said, as they walked slowly, mindful of her condition. "I haven't felt this normal in months, like I'm a person, not just a problem to be solved." "You're not a problem." Sang-woo stopped walking, turning to face her. The moonlight caught his features, making him look almost unreal. "You're extraordinary, and I want to kiss you so badly right now, but I don't want to rush you." Dee's heart hammered against her ribs. Her whole body felt alive with awareness of him, the way he stood close, but not too close, giving her space to decide. The respect in that gesture undid something in her chest. "Then kiss me," she breathed. Sang-woo's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing across her lips with devastating gentleness. When he finally closed the distance between them, the kiss was everything and nothing like she'd expected. Soft at first, testing, asking permission. Then deeper as she responded, her hands fisting in his shirt to pull him closer. Heat flooded through her body, desire she'd thought was dead after Marcus awakening with fierce intensity. Sang-woo kissed like he did everything else, with complete focus and intensity. His other hand slid to her lower back, supporting her, careful of her belly but still managing to make her feel desired in a way she'd never experienced. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dee saw the same shocked desire in his eyes that she felt. "I should get you home," Sang-woo said, his voice rough, "before I forget how to be a gentleman." The drive back to her apartment was quiet, but charged. Sang-woo held her hand the entire time, his thumb tracing circles on her palm that made concentration impossible. When they arrived, he walked her to her door, his security staying respectfully back. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked at her doorstep. "I know this is fast, but I don't want to waste time pretending I don't want to be around you." "I work until 6, Dee said, already knowing she'd rearrange anything to see him again. "Then I'll pick you up at 6. He kissed her again, slow and deep, until her knees felt weak. "Sleep well, beautiful." Dee floated into her apartment, her lips still tingling from his kisses. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear and exhaustion. She felt alive, wanted, seen. But as she lay in bed that night, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stay away from Sang-woo. You have no idea what you're getting into. This is your only warning." Her blood turned cold. Someone was watching. And whatever world Sang-woo lived in, it was coming for her, whether she was ready or not. Meanwhile, across the city, Sang-woo sat in his office, unable to focus on the reports in front of him. Maimakan, second in command, Dong-hyun, stood before him with a concerned expression. "Boss, people are talking. You've never shown interest in anyone before, and now suddenly, you're bringing a woman to your private restaurant, walking through parks, kissing her, where anyone could see. This makes you look vulnerable. I don't care what people think." Sang-woo's voice was steel. "Dee is off limits. Make sure everyone in our organization knows that. Anyone who even looks at her, wrong, answers to me personally." "And what about your aunt? Jian is arriving from Korea next week. You know she has expectations about who you should be with." Sang-woo's jaw tightened. His aunt had been pressuring him for years to marry someone suitable, someone who would strengthen family ties and business connections. A pregnant black woman with no money or connections was the exact opposite of what she wanted. "My aunt doesn't control my life," he said coldly. "I'll handle her when she arrives. Right now, all I care about is making sure Dee is safe and happy. Is that understood?" "Yes, boss." Dong-hyun bowed and left, but his worried expression lingered. Sang-woo knew this wasn't going to be easy. His world wasn't made for soft things like romance and genuine connection. It was built on power, control, and respect earned through strength. Bringing Dee into it could put her in danger. But as he remembered the taste of her lips and the way she'd looked at him with such trust, despite knowing what he was, Sang-woo knew he was already in too deep. For the first time in his life, he wanted something more than power. He wanted her. And what Sang-woo wanted, he got. No matter what stood in his way. Dee woke up to sunlight streaming through her thin curtains and the memory of Sang-woo's kiss still warm on her lips. For a moment, she allowed herself to just feel happy, something she hadn't experienced in so long it felt foreign. Then reality crashed back in. She had 3 cleaning jobs today. Her feet still hurt from yesterday, and there was a threatening text message on her phone that she'd tried to convince herself was just a prank. She got ready quickly, pulling on her uniform and grabbing a protein bar for breakfast. The envelope of money sat on her counter, still unopened beyond her initial peak. $10,000. It felt like Monopoly money. Too much to be real. She'd been too afraid to deposit it, worried that somehow it would disappear or turn out to be a mistake. Her phone buzzed as she locked her apartment door. A text from Sang-woo made her smile despite her exhaustion. "Good morning, beautiful. Thinking about you. Can't wait for tonight." She typed back a quick response, warmth flooding through her chest. 3 days ago, she'd been completely alone. Now someone was thinking about her, looking forward to seeing her. It felt like a dream. The first cleaning job was at a medical office building, and Dee lost herself in the familiar rhythm of vacuuming and wiping down surfaces. Her mind drifted to Sang-woo, to the way he'd held her so carefully, like she was something precious. Marcus had never touched her like that, even in the beginning when he'd been pretending to care. She was emptying trash cans on the 3rd floor when a familiar voice made her freeze. "Well, look at you. Still scrubbing toilets for pennies." Dee turned slowly, her heart sinking. Marcus stood in the hallway, dressed in new clothes she didn't recognize, designer jeans and an expensive jacket. His smile was the same charming one that had fooled her for 3 years, but now she could see the calculation behind it. "What are you doing here?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I work in this building now. New job in finance." He stepped closer, and she instinctively moved back. "I've been thinking about you, Dee, about us, about the baby. There is no us. You made that clear when you walked out." She gripped the trash bag tighter, using it as a shield between them. "And you gave up any right to think about this baby. I made a mistake." Marcus's expression shifted to what she used to think was genuine remorse. Now she recognized it as manipulation. I was scared. I panicked. But I've been going to therapy, working on myself. I want to be there for you and our child." "Our child?" Anger flared hot in her chest. "You called it a mistake. You said you didn't sign up for this. Those were your exact words before you walked out and left me with nothing." "I know, and I'm sorry. I was wrong." He reached for her hand, but she yanked it away. "Baby, I've changed. Let me prove it to you. Let me take you to dinner. Show you I'm serious this time." "I'm not your baby. I'm not your anything." Dee moved past him, needing to get away. "Stay away from me, Marcus." "I mean it." But Marcus followed her, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I heard about your new friend, the Korean guy with all the cars and money. Is that what this is about? You think he's going to save you? Guys like that don't stick around for pregnant women carrying another man's baby." His words hit exactly where he'd aimed them, at her deepest fears. Dee felt tears prick her eyes but refused to let them fall. "At least he treats me with respect, something you never learned how to do." "He's using you." Marcus's charm cracked, showing the cruelty underneath. "Wake up, Dee. Men like that have women everywhere. You're just a charity case to him, something to make himself feel good. But me? I know you. I was there first. That baby is mine, and eventually you'll remember that you belong with me." "I belong to myself." Dee pushed past him, her hands shaking. "Don't contact me again." She finished her shift in a blur, her mind spinning. Marcus's words had planted seeds of doubt she didn't want to acknowledge. What if he was right? What if Sang-woo's interest was just temporary, a rich man's whim that would fade once the novelty wore off? She was 6 months pregnant, broke, with nothing to offer someone like him. The second cleaning job passed in similar emotional turmoil. By the time she reached her third shift at a small office complex, Dee's feet were screaming and her back ached. She sat in the break room for a moment, trying to gather the energy to finish. Her phone rang. Sang-woo. For a moment, she considered not answering, afraid he'd somehow sense her doubts through the phone. But she couldn't resist hearing his voice. "Hey," she answered, trying to sound normal. "You sound tired. Rough day?" His concern was immediate, genuine. "Just the usual. 3 jobs, you know." She forced a laugh. "Nothing I can't handle." "You shouldn't have to handle it alone." There was a pause. "I'm at your first job, the medical building. Dorothy told me you work here sometimes. I wanted to surprise you, but you already left." Her heart clenched. He'd come to see her, had gone to the diner to find out her schedule. "Sang-woo, you can't just show up at my work. It's not appropriate." "Why not? I wanted to take you to lunch. Is that so wrong?" He sounded puzzled, maybe a little hurt. "It's just complicated." Dee closed her eyes. "We're from different worlds. You have to see that. The only thing I see is a woman I can't stop thinking about, and who seems to be pulling away. Did something happen? Talk to me." "My ex showed up today." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "He says he wants me back, that he's changed, and he said things about you, about us. And maybe he's right. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe I'm just a charity case to you, and I'm too stupid to see it." The silence on the other end felt like ice water. When Sang-woo spoke again, his voice was controlled, but she could hear the anger underneath. "Where are you right now? Exactly where?" "The office complex on Riverside. But Sang-woo, I didn't mean—" "Stay there. I'm coming to get you." "And Dee? Your ex is wrong about everything. I'll explain when I see you." He hung up before she could protest. Dee sat there, phone in hand, wondering what she'd just set in motion. Part of her wanted to run, to protect herself from the inevitable hurt. But another part, the part that had felt his kiss and seen the genuine care in his eyes, wanted to stay and fight for whatever this could be. 20 minutes later, The convoy of black cars pulled up outside. Didi watched through the window as Sang-woo emerged, and this time, she noticed things she'd missed before. The way his security moved with military precision, the deference shown by everyone who saw him, the power that radiated from him like heat. He walked into the building like he owned it, and maybe he did for all she knew. When he found her in the break room, his expression was intense, almost fierce. "You're not a charity case," he said without preamble. "You're not a project or a whim or entertainment. You're a woman I respect and care about. And that isn't going to change because you're pregnant or because you work 3 jobs. If anything, those things make me admire you more." But Marcus said, Marcus is trying to manipulate you because he heard you have someone in your life who values you. He's scared you're moving on, so he's playing mind games. Don't let him win. Sang-woo stepped closer, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "I'm not perfect, Didi. My life is complicated and sometimes dangerous. But I'm honest with you, and I'm here. Those are the only promises I can make right now." Didi felt the tears she'd been holding back start to fall. "I'm scared. Everything is happening so fast, and I've been hurt before. I don't know if I can survive being hurt like that again." "Then let me prove you can trust me, not with words, but with actions." He wiped her tears with his thumbs, his touch achingly gentle. "Let me take care of you today. No work, no stress. Just let me show you what this could be like. I can't just leave. I have a shift to finish. Already handled. I spoke with the building manager. You're covered for today." At her shocked expression, he gave a small smile. "I told you, I don't do anything halfway. Now come with me. Please." Didi knew she should refuse, should maintain some independence, but she was so tired of being strong alone. So tired of fighting every battle by herself. Maybe, just maybe, it was okay to let someone help, to let someone care. "Okay," she whispered, "but I need to get my things." Sang-woo took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "I'll wait." They walked out of the building together, and Didi felt the stares of her co-workers through the windows. Let them look. Let them gossip. For once in her life, she was choosing herself, choosing possibility over fear. In the car, Sang-woo kept her hand in his thumb tracing those same circles on her palm. "I need to tell you something. My aunt is arriving from Korea in a few days. She's very traditional, and she has specific ideas about who I should be with. This is going to be difficult." "You mean I'm not what she wants for you?" It wasn't a question. "You're everything I want. That's what matters." His jaw tightened. "But I won't lie and say it will be easy. She can be harsh. Maybe you should listen to her." Didi pulled her hand away, old insecurities rising up. "Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not right for your world." "Stop." Sang-woo's voice was sharp enough to make her look at him. "Don't do that. Don't let other people's prejudices make you doubt your worth. You're incredible, Didi. Strong, kind, beautiful, determined. Any family would be lucky to have you. Even one that's pregnant with another man's baby? Especially then, because it shows you don't give up. You fight for the people you love, even when it's hard. That baby is lucky to have you as a mother." The conviction in his voice broke something loose in her chest. Didi leaned into him, letting herself be held as the car drove through Austin. For now, she would choose to believe, to trust, to let herself fall into whatever this was between them. But neither of them knew that Marcus was already setting his plan in motion, making a call to someone who would tear their fragile beginning apart. Or that Sang-woo's Aunt Jian had already landed in Austin, ready to destroy any woman who dared to stand between her nephew and the future she'd planned for him. The storm was coming, and they were about to be swept up in it. If you're enjoying this story, Hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Drop a heart emoji if you're Team Sang-woo and Dee, and tell us what you think happens next. Sang-woo took Dee to his penthouse apartment, a space so vast and elegant it made her feel like she'd stepped into a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Austin skyline, and everything from the furniture to the art on the walls screamed wealth. But what struck her most was how empty it felt, like a showroom rather than a home. "You live here alone?" she asked, running her hand along the back of a leather couch that probably cost more than a year of her rent. "Dong-hyun and my security team have their own floor below. But yes, I live alone." He shrugged out of his jacket, and Dee noticed how tired he looked. "I'm not here much. Work keeps me busy." "It's beautiful but lonely," she said honestly. Sang-woo's expression softened. "It has been, but having you here makes it feel different. Better." He ordered food from his restaurant, insisted Dee rest on the couch while they waited, even brought her a pillow for her back. The tenderness in these small gestures made her chest ache. When the food arrived, they ate together, while he told her stories about Korea, about his parents before they died, about the uncle who raised him with equal parts discipline and love. "He taught me everything," Sang-woo said, his voice distant with memory. "How to read people, how to lead, how to make hard choices. But he also taught me that power without honor is worthless. That's why I try to be fair, even in my line of work." "Do you ever wish you could walk away from it all?" Dee asked. "Live a normal life?" "Sometimes. But this is who I am. It's in my blood." He looked at her intently. "But I'm starting to think normal isn't what I want anyway. I want real, and you're the most real thing I've found in 10 years. The kiss that followed was different from their first, hungrier, more desperate. Dee melted into him, her hands sliding up his chest to grip his shoulders. Sang-woo was careful of her belly, but his touch was everywhere else, making her skin burn with need she'd forgotten she could feel. "Stay tonight," he murmured against her lips. "I have a guest room. I just want you close." Every warning bell in her head told her this was too fast, too intense, but when had playing it safe ever gotten her anything but heartbreak? "Okay," she breathed. "I'll stay." They spent the evening talking, watching the city lights come, alive below them. Sang-woo told her about his business plans, actually asked her opinion on decisions. She told him about her catering dreams in more detail, and he listened, like every word mattered. When exhaustion finally claimed her, he led her to a guest bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. "If you need anything, I'm right next door. And Dee, thank you for trusting me enough to stay." She fell asleep in sheets that felt like clouds, her last thought about how easy it would be to get used to this. But the next morning, everything changed. Dee woke to the sound of raised voices in Korean. She recognized Sang-woo's voice, tight with controlled anger, and another voice, female, sharp, and clearly furious. Wrapping herself in the robe she found, hanging on the bathroom door, she opened her bedroom door quietly. The woman standing in Sang-woo's living room was in her 50s, dressed in an expensive suit, her hair pulled back severely. Her face was beautiful but cold, like ice sculpted into human form. This had to be Jian. "You bring shame to our family." Jian's English was perfect, but heavily accented. "A black woman, pregnant with another man's child. Have you lost your mind?" "My personal life is not your concern, Aunt." Sang-woo's voice was steel. "I respect you, but you don't control who I care about. I control the family money, the business connections in Korea. Everything you've built here can disappear if I decide you're unworthy." Jian's eyes were merciless. "I've arranged meetings with 3 suitable women this week. You will attend, and you will choose one. This nonsense with the pregnant charity case ends now." Dee felt like she'd been slapped. She must have made a sound, because both of them turned to look at her. Jian's gaze raked over her with such open disgust that Dee wanted to disappear. "So this is her." Jian switched to English, her tone dripping with disdain. "Tell me, girl, how much do you want to go away? Name your price. Everyone has one." "I'm not for sale." Dee's voice shook, but she forced herself to stand tall. "And I'm not a charity case. I'm a person who helped your nephew when he needed it, nothing more." How noble. Jian's smile was cruel. "But let's be honest. You see a wealthy man, and you think you've won the lottery. That baby you're carrying is probably your ticket to never having to work again. But you miscalculated. Sang-woo will never marry someone like you. He'll have his fun, and then he'll move on to someone appropriate." "That's enough!" Sang-woo moved between them, his body blocking Jian's view of Dee. "You will not speak to her that way. Not in my home. Not anywhere." "Then she leaves. Or I do." Jian crossed her arms. "And if I leave, I take everything with me. The family support, the Korean connections, all of it. Choose, Sang-woo, your duty or your infatuation." The silence that followed felt like death. Dee's heart hammered in her chest as she waited for Sang-woo to speak. She knew what he should choose. She'd known from the beginning that this was too good to be true. "Dee stays," Sang-woo said finally. "And you can leave anytime you want. I built this organization with my own hands. If you want to take your support, go ahead. I'll survive." Jian's face went white with rage. "You would throw away everything for a woman you've known less than a week? You're more foolish than I thought." "I'm throwing away nothing. I'm choosing to live my life on my terms." Sang-woo's voice was calm, but Dee could see the tension in his shoulders. "I've followed every rule, met every expectation, sacrificed everything personal for the family business. Not anymore." Jian turned to Dee, her eyes filled with venom. "You think you've won? All you've done is paint a target on both of you. There are people who will use you to destroy him. And when that happens, don't come crying to me." She swept out of the apartment, slamming the door hard enough to make the windows rattle. Dee stood frozen, her mind reeling from what had just happened. "I'm sorry," Sang-woo said, turning to her. "I didn't expect her to arrive early or to be so cruel. She's right, though." Dee's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm putting you in danger, making you choose between your family and me. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. And I'm tired of letting other people make decisions for me." He crossed to her, taking her hands. "Are you okay?" "No." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Your aunt hates me. Your family will never accept me. And maybe she's right. Maybe I am just a poor girl who got lucky, and I'm ruining your life." "Stop. You're not ruining anything. You're giving me something I've never had. A reason to want more than just power and duty." He wiped her tears gently. "But I understand if this is too much. If you want to walk away, I won't stop you." Dee looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the exhaustion, the loneliness he hid behind authority, the genuine care in his eyes when he looked at her. And she realized that walking away wouldn't protect either of them. It would just mean they'd both be alone again. "I don't want to walk away," she said. "But I'm scared, Sang-woo. Really scared." "Me too." The admission seemed to cost him, but he said it anyway. "But maybe that means this is real." They held each other for a long moment, finding comfort in proximity. But when Sang-woo's phone rang, he tensed immediately at whatever he saw on the screen. "I have to take this," he said, kissing her forehead. "It's important. Make yourself at home. I'll be right back." He disappeared into his office, and Dee stood alone in the massive living room. She should feel grateful, happy even. Sang-woo had chosen her over his family, had defended her against his aunt's cruelty. But all she felt was dread, like a storm was gathering that would sweep them both away. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number made her blood run cold. He'll get tired of you eventually. They always do. But I can give you what you really need. Money and security. Meet me at Riverside Park at noon. Come alone. Don't tell Sang-woo. It was from Marcus. Somehow he'd gotten a new number, was still trying to manipulate his way back into her life. Dee Dee's first instinct was to show the text to Sang-woo, but something stopped her. Marcus had information about her past, things she hadn't told Sang-woo yet, things that could make him see her differently. When Sang-woo emerged from his office 15 minutes later, his expression was grim. "I have to handle something at the warehouse. It's important. I'll have you driven home and I'll call you later." "Is everything okay?" Dee Dee asked, reading the tension in his shoulders. "Just business. Nothing for you to worry about." He kissed her, but she could feel his distraction. "I'm sorry. I wanted to spend the day with you. It's fine. I understand." But she didn't. Not really. She didn't understand his world, the dangers he faced, the decisions he had to make. The drive home was quiet. Dee Dee's mind spun with everything that had happened. Jian's cruel words, Sang-woo's defense of her, Marcus's ominous text. When she reached her apartment, she stood in the small space that had never felt more suffocating. Against every bit of common sense she possessed, Dee Dee made a decision. She would meet Marcus just to hear what he had to say. Not because she wanted him back, but because she needed to understand what kind of leverage he thought he had. She needed to protect herself, and by extension, protect Sang-woo. At 11:30, she left her apartment and took the bus to Riverside Park. The fall air was crisp, and the park was moderately crowded with people enjoying the weekend. She found Marcus sitting on a bench by the lake, dressed in those expensive new clothes, his expression smug. "You came," he said, standing as she approached. "I wasn't sure you would. I'm here to tell you to stop contacting me. Whatever game you're playing, it ends now." Dee Dee stayed several feet away, keeping distance between them. "No game, just an offer." Marcus pulled out his phone, swiping through pictures. "See, I've been doing some research on your new boyfriend, Sang-woo Park, head of a Korean organization with ties to some very shady business. Money laundering, illegal imports, protection rackets. The kind of man the FBI would love to take down." Dee Dee's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you're involved with a criminal, and when the authorities come for him, and they will, they'll come for everyone around him too, including you, including our baby." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping. "But I can protect you from that. Walk away now. Come back to me, and none of this touches you." "You're lying. You're just trying to scare me." "Am I?" Marcus showed her his phone screen. There were photos of Sang-woo meeting, with men she didn't recognize, documents with official-looking letterheads, text conversations about shipments and payments. "I've been collecting this for days. Insurance, you could say. And if you don't come back to me, I'm taking all of this to a friend of mine who works with a special investigation unit. They'll tear Sang-woo's organization apart." "Why are you doing this?" Dee Dee's voice broke. "I never did anything to you." "Because you're mine. That baby is mine, and I don't let go of what belongs to me." Marcus stepped closer, and she saw the obsession in his eyes that she'd somehow missed before. "1 week, Dee Dee. You have 1 week to tell your rich boyfriend it's over and come back where you belong, or I burn his entire world down." Dee Dee turned and ran, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She didn't stop until she was blocks away, gasping for breath, her hands shaking. Marcus had evidence. Real or fabricated, she couldn't be sure. That could destroy Sang-woo. And she was the reason he'd collected it. She pulled out her phone to call Sang-woo to warn him, but stopped. What if telling him made things worse? What if he confronted Marcus and it escalated? What if she was the catalyst that brought everything crashing down? For the first time since meeting Sang-woo, Dee considered that maybe everyone was right. Maybe she was putting him in danger. Maybe love wasn't enough to overcome the obstacles between them. Maybe the kindest thing she could do was walk away before she destroyed the first good man who'd ever cared about her. Across the city, Sang-woo stood in his warehouse, staring at security footage that made his blood boil. Someone had tried to sabotage a shipment, and the culprit had been sloppy enough to be caught on camera. "It was Kuang Min's men," Dong-hyun said, his voice tight with anger. "He's making a move, testing your defenses. And boss, there's something else. We've been getting inquiries from federal agents. Someone's been feeding them information about our operations." "Who?" "We're still investigating. But whoever it is, they have access to details that should be impossible for an outsider to know. Someone close is either talking or being used." Sang-woo's mind immediately went to Dee, then rejected the thought just as quickly. She wouldn't betray him. But doubt, once planted, was hard to kill completely. "Find the leak," he ordered, "and send a message to Kuang Min. If he wants a war, I'll give him one he won't survive." As Dong-hyun left to carry out orders, Sang-woo pulled out his phone to call Dee. He needed to hear her voice, to ground himself in something real. But when she answered, her voice sounded strange, distant and scared. "Is everything okay?" he asked immediately. "Fine, just tired. Can I call you back later?" She hung up before he could respond. Sang-woo stared at his phone, that familiar feeling of being shut out washing over him. Something was wrong. He could feel it. And he was going to find out what, even if the answer destroyed them both. 3 days passed, like a slow torture. Dee avoided Sang-woo's calls, responding only to his texts, with short, non-committal messages. She told herself she was protecting him, giving herself time to figure out what to do about Marcus's threats. But really, she was drowning in fear and indecision. The apartment felt smaller each day, suffocating her with its peeling paint and broken appliances. She'd gone back to all 3 of her cleaning jobs, pushing herself until her body screamed in protest. The physical exhaustion was easier to handle than the emotional turmoil threatening to tear her apart. On the 3rd night, there was a knock at her door. Dee opened it to find Dong-hyun standing there, his expression professionally neutral, but his eyes concerned. "Miss Dee, may I come in? It's important." She let him in, her heart already sinking. Whatever this was, it wasn't good. "The boss is worried about you," Dong-hyun said without preamble. "You've been avoiding him, and he's convinced something's wrong. He wanted to come himself, but I suggested I speak with you first. So I'm asking directly, are you in some kind of trouble?" Dee sank onto her couch, the weight of everything finally breaking through her carefully constructed walls. "It's Marcus, my ex. He has information about Sang-woo's business, and he's threatening to take it to the authorities, unless I leave Sang-woo and go back to him." Dong-hyun's expression didn't change, but she saw his jaw tighten. "What kind of information?" "Photos, documents, conversations. I don't know if it's real or fabricated, but he seemed confident it would be enough to cause serious problems." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I thought if I just stayed away from Sang-woo, if I let this thing between us die, Marcus would back off. And you didn't tell the boss this because I'm already causing him enough problems. His aunt hates me, his business rivals are circling, and now my psychotic ex is trying to blackmail me. I'm a liability, Dong-hyun. Everyone can see it. But me." Dong-hyun sat down across from her, his expression softening slightly. "Miss Dee, with all due respect, you're making decisions about the boss's life without consulting him. He spent 32 years handling threats and enemies. Your ex-boyfriend isn't going to be the thing that brings him down. But what if it does? What if I'm the reason everything falls apart? Then we handle it together. That's what family does." He pulled out his phone. I need you to tell me everything Marcus said. Show me any messages he sent. And then I need you to come with me to see the boss. Because if you don't, he's going to assume you're rejecting him, and that will hurt him worse than any threat Marcus could make. Dee showed him Marcus's texts, recounted their conversation at the park. Dong-hyun's expression grew darker with each detail. This is good information, actually. Gives us something to work with. He stood. Get your things. We're going to the office. Now? It's almost midnight. The boss doesn't sleep much when he's worried. Trust me, he'll want to see you. The drive to Sang-woo's office building was quiet. Dee's heart pounded as they took the elevator to the top floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the sleeping city. Sang-woo stood with his back to the door, his posture rigid. Boss, I brought someone to see you, Dong-hyun said gently. Sang-woo turned, and the relief that flooded his face when he saw Dee made her chest ache. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, pulling her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. I thought I'd lost you, he murmured into her hair. 3 days of nothing, and I thought you'd decided I wasn't worth the complications. I'm sorry. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I was trying to protect you, but I just made everything worse. Tell me everything. He led her to the leather couch in his office, keeping her hand in his. No more secrets. Whatever it is, we face it together. So Dee told him everything. Marcus's appearance, the threats, the evidence he claimed to have, her fear that she was destroying Sang-woo's life. With each word, she watched his expression shift from concern to cold fury. That pathetic worm thinks he can threaten you? Threaten us! Sang-woo's voice was dangerously quiet. Dong-hyun, I want everything on Marcus Lawson. Where he works, where he lives, where he gets his coffee in the morning. And I want to know who's feeding him information about our operations. Already on it, boss. I made some calls on the way over. Dong-hyun pulled out his tablet. Marcus Lawson, 29, works at Sterling Finance, which happens to be a company we've had issues with before. His new job started exactly 1 week after you met Miss Dee. He's also been meeting regularly with someone from Kuang Min's organization. The pieces clicked into place. Kuang Min's using Marcus to get to me through Dee. The evidence Marcus has is probably fabricated or stolen, meant to look legitimate enough to scare her. Sang-woo's hand tightened on hers. I'm going to end this, tonight. Wait, Dee grabbed his arm. Don't do anything that will make this worse. Marcus isn't worth you getting in trouble. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm sending a message. Sang-woo's eyes were hard. Nobody threatens the people I care about. Nobody. Within an hour, Sang-woo's entire team was mobilized. Dee watched in amazement as Dong-hyun coordinated surveillance, gathered counter-evidence, and made calls to contacts that seemed to span the city. This was the side of Sang-woo's world she'd only glimpsed before. Efficient, ruthless, and absolutely in control. Marcus Lawson is at a bar downtown, one of the security team reported. Should we bring him in? No, I'll handle this personally. Sang-woo stood, buttoning his jacket. Dee, stay here with Dong-hyun. I'll be back in an hour. I'm coming with you. She stood as well, ignoring his immediate protest. He's my problem. I should be there. Absolutely not. This could get ugly. Then make sure it doesn't. Dee met his gaze steadily. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not letting fear control my decisions. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. Sang-woo studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Together. But you stay in the car, and if I tell you to leave, you leave. Deal? Deal. The bar was a dingy place in a questionable neighborhood, the kind of spot where people went when they didn't want to be found. Sang-woo's convoy pulled up outside, causing the few patrons on the street to scatter. Marcus sat at the bar, already drunk, his expensive clothes looking rumpled. Sang-woo walked in alone, though Didi could see his security team positioning themselves at all exits. She watched through the tinted window as Sang-woo sat down next to Marcus, who looked up with bleary eyes that went wide with recognition and fear. "We need to talk," Sang-woo said, his voice carrying in the suddenly quiet bar. "About your threats to Didi." "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus slurred, trying for bravado and failing. "Don't insult my intelligence. You've been working with Kuang Min, feeding him information about my operations, collecting fake evidence to use against me. All because you can't accept that Didi doesn't want you anymore." Marcus laughed bitterly. "That baby is mine. She's mine. You can't just waltz in with your money and cars and think you can take what's mine. She was never yours. You abandoned her when she needed you most. And that baby?" Sang-woo leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "That baby deserves better than a father who only showed up when he thought he could use her for leverage. What are you going to do? Beat me up? Kill me?" Marcus's false courage was crumbling. "You do anything to me, and all that evidence goes straight to the FBI. The evidence that Kuang Min's people fabricated, the evidence that my lawyers have already proven is full of inconsistencies and forged documents." Sang-woo pulled out his own phone, showing Marcus the screen. "I've spent the last 3 hours destroying your entire plan. The photos are dated incorrectly. The documents use terminology that changed 2 years ago. And the text, conversations, they're from numbers that didn't exist 6 months ago." Marcus's face went pale. "You're lying. I never lie. That's the difference between me and you." Sang-woo stood. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a legal document relinquishing all parental rights to Didi's baby. You're going to leave Austin and never contact her again. And in exchange, I won't tell the FBI about how you've been manufacturing false evidence against a federal investigation target, which is a felony that carries 10 to 15 years. You can't make me do that. No? Dong-hyun, please bring in our guest." Dong-hyun entered the bar with another man, older, Korean, with a face that radiated cold authority. Even drunk, Marcus recognized danger when he saw it. "This is Kuang Min," Sang-woo said pleasantly. "Your business partner. Tell him, Kuang Min, what happens to people who fail you and then become liabilities." Kuang Min's smile was terrifying. "They disappear. Permanently." "Wait, what?" "No." Marcus stumbled backward. "I did everything you asked. I got close to the girl. I collected information. You got caught," Kuang Min interrupted. "You allowed yourself to be exposed, which means you're useless to me. And Sang-woo has kindly offered to handle the problem, which saves me the trouble. I'll sign." Marcus was shaking now, all pretense of courage gone. "I'll sign whatever you want, just let me go." Dong-hyun produced papers from his jacket. Marcus signed with trembling hands, barely reading the words. When it was done, Sang-woo took the documents and handed them to Didi, who'd gotten out of the car against his orders. "It's over," he said softly, seeing the tears streaming down her face. "He can't hurt you anymore." "The baby," she whispered. "He really signed away his rights?" "Completely. As far as the law is concerned, he has no claim to your child. You're free, Didi." She looked at Marcus, who sat broken and defeated at the bar. A part of her wanted to feel triumph, but all she felt was sadness for the time she'd wasted believing his lies. "Let's go home," she said to Sang-woo. They left Marcus there, and Didi never looked back. In the car, Sang-woo held her close, and she finally let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. "Thank you," she murmured against his chest, "for protecting me, for believing me, for everything." "Always," he promised. "I'll always protect you. Both of you." Didi placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick as if in agreement. For the first time in months, the future didn't look terrifying. It looked possible. But as the convoy drove through the night, neither of them noticed the car following at a distance, or the woman inside it whose face was twisted with rage. Jian had been watching everything, and she'd just decided that if her nephew wouldn't listen to reason, she would take matters into her own hands. The battle with Marcus might be over, but the war for their future had only just begun. Didi moved through the next 2 weeks in a state of cautious happiness. Marcus was gone, his threats neutralized, and she'd finally allowed herself to truly be with Sang-woo. He'd insisted she quit 2 of her 3 jobs, promising to cover any financial gaps. At first, she'd refused, clinging to her independence, but exhaustion and his gentle persuasion had worn her down. They spent every free moment together. Sang-woo showed her parts of Austin she'd never explored: hidden restaurants, quiet parks, overlooks where the city stretched out, beneath them like a promise. He asked questions about her catering dreams, making notes on his phone, treating her aspirations with the same seriousness he gave his business deals. Their physical relationship had deepened too. Sang-woo was patient and attentive, always careful of her pregnancy, but making her feel desired in ways that took her breath away. The first time they made love in his penthouse, with the city lights twinkling below and his hands worshipping every inch of her skin, Didi had cried from the overwhelming emotion of being truly seen and wanted. "I'm falling in love with you," she'd whispered afterward, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I'm already there," he'd replied, kissing her forehead. "I think I started falling the moment you handed Dorothy that money and walked away like it was nothing." But their bubble of happiness couldn't last forever. Reality intruded in small ways at first. Dong-hyun's concerned looks when Ji-yeon's name came up. Whispered conversations Sang-woo ended when she entered the room. The tension that never quite left his shoulders. Then, on a Tuesday morning, everything exploded. Didi woke in Sang-woo's bed to find him already dressed, pacing near the window with his phone pressed to his ear. The rapid Korean and sharp tone told her something was very wrong. "What happened?" she asked, sitting up carefully. Sang-woo ended the call, his expression grim. "Kuang Min made a move. He attacked one of our warehouses overnight, destroyed $50,000 worth of merchandise. He's declaring open war." "But I thought you had some kind of understanding with him." "We did. Until he decided that my relationship with you makes me look weak, and weak leaders get challenged." Sang-woo ran his hand through his hair in frustration. "He's been spreading rumors that I'm distracted, that I'm putting a woman above business, that I'm losing my edge. So he was right." Didi's voice was small. "I'm making you look weak." "No, he's making a fatal miscalculation, but I have to handle this now, before it escalates further." He crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I need you to stay here today. Don't go to work. Don't leave the building. My security will be with you at all times." "For how long?" "However long it takes." He kissed her deeply, desperately. "I have to go. Promise me you'll stay safe." "I promise. But Sang-woo, please be careful. Don't do anything that could get you hurt." "The only thing that could hurt me now is losing you." He kissed her again, then left, and Didi was alone with her fears and the view of the city that suddenly felt more like a prison than a paradise. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Security guards stationed themselves outside the penthouse. Dong-hyun called twice to check on her, his voice professional, but concerned. Didi tried to distract herself with television, with reading, with anything that would stop her mind from imagining all the terrible things that could be happening. By evening, her nerves were frayed. She'd felt the baby kicking more than usual, as if sensing her anxiety. When her phone rang with an unknown number, she almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. "Didi." The voice was female, accented, familiar. "Who is this?" "Jian. We need to talk." Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street in 30 minutes. Come alone. I can't leave. Sang-woo said. Sang-woo is currently engaged in a confrontation with Kuang Min that could turn violent at any moment. Do you want to help him, or sit in his apartment playing house while his world burns? The line went dead. Dee stared at her phone, heart racing. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But what if Jian knew something that could help? What if there was a way to stop whatever was happening before Sang-woo got hurt? She looked at the security guards through the door's peephole. They were alert, but not watching the door itself. The building had a service elevator that led to the parking garage. If she was quick and quiet, she could slip out. It was stupid. Reckless. Everything Sang-woo had asked her not to do. But the image of him in danger, possibly because of her, was too much to bear. 10 minutes later, Dee was in a taxi heading downtown. Her phone turned off so Sang-woo's security couldn't track her. The coffee shop was nearly empty, and Jian sat in a corner booth, immaculately dressed as always, her expression unreadable. You came, Jian said, as Dee slid into the booth across from her. Good. That shows you care about him at least. What do you want? To save my nephew from making the biggest mistake of his life. Jian's eyes were hard. You need to leave him, Dee. Not because I don't think you care about him, but because your presence is destroying everything he's built. He told you he chose me. That choice is his to make. Is it? When it costs him his business, his reputation, possibly his life? Jian pulled out her phone, showing Dee photos of a warehouse in flames, men with guns, destruction. This is what's happening right now. Kuang Min sees Sang-woo's relationship with you as a weakness to exploit. Every moment you stay, you paint a bigger target on his back. Dee felt sick looking at the photos. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm showing you reality. Love isn't enough when it gets people killed. Jian leaned forward. I'm not asking you to stop caring about him. I'm asking you to love him enough to let him go. To give him a chance to survive this war without the distraction of worrying about you. He won't accept that. He'll just be angry that I left. He'll be alive to be angry. Isn't that better than him being dead because he was too busy protecting you to protect himself? Jian's voice softened slightly. You're not a bad person, Dee. You're just wrong for him. Wrong for his world. The kindest thing you can do is disappear before your presence costs him everything. Tears burned Dee's eyes. If I leave, he'll come looking for me. Not if you make it clear you want nothing to do with him. Not if you hurt him enough that his pride won't let him chase you. Jian slid an envelope across the table. There's enough money in here to start over somewhere else. A new city, a new life for you and your baby. Take it and go. Tonight. Before he comes back and talks you into staying. Dee looked at the envelope, at Jian's cold but certain expression, at the photos of destruction that Sang-woo was dealing with right now. Everything inside her screamed that this was wrong, that running was exactly what Marcus and Jian and everyone else expected of her. But what if they were right? What if loving Sang-woo meant letting him go? I need to think, she whispered. You have 1 hour. Then I'm telling Sang-woo where you are, and he'll come for you, and this chance will be gone. Jian stood, leaving the envelope on the table. Choose wisely, girl. Choose his life over your happiness. She walked out, leaving Dee alone with impossible choices and a heart that was breaking into pieces. Dee sat there for 10 minutes, tears streaming down her face, before she made her decision. She grabbed the envelope and ran out of the coffee shop, flagging down a taxi. The industrial district, as fast as you can. If she was going to make choices about Sang-woo's life, she was going to do it while looking him in the eye, not by running away like a coward. The warehouse district was dark and ominous. Didi could see smoke rising from one building, hear the distant sounds of sirens. She paid the taxi driver and walked toward the chaos, her heart in her throat. Sang-woo's men spotted her first, moving to intercept, but Sang-woo's voice cut through the night. "Let her through." He emerged from between buildings, his suit torn, a cut above his eyebrow that was bleeding. The fury in his eyes when he saw her made her step back. "What are you doing here?" His voice was quiet, which was somehow worse than if he'd yelled. "I told you to stay safe. Your aunt called. She said you were in danger, and I couldn't just sit there." Didi's voice broke. "She wants me to leave you. She thinks I'm the reason all this is happening." "My aunt has no right." Sang-woo stopped, really looking at her. "Did she give you money? Tell you to disappear?" Didi held up the envelope silently. "And you were going to do it? You were going to leave without even talking to me?" The hurt in his voice was devastating. "I don't know. I'm confused and scared, and everyone keeps telling me I'm wrong for you." She was crying now, huge gasping sobs. "I love you, but what if loving you gets you killed? What if I'm being selfish by staying?" Sang-woo crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her against him despite his security team's protests about being exposed. "Listen to me. You are not responsible for Kuang Min's choices. You are not responsible for my aunt's prejudices. You are not responsible for any of this, except showing up and loving me despite all the reasons not to." But the danger was always there. Kuang Min was always going to challenge me eventually. You didn't cause this war. You just gave me something worth fighting for instead of just fighting to fight. He tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Don't let them win by convincing you to leave. Stay and fight with me. That's all I'm asking. I don't know how to fight in your world. You don't have to fight my battles. Just stand beside me and be the reason I want to win them." He kissed her, hard and desperate. "Stay, Didi, please stay." A gunshot cracked through the night. Sang-woo pulled Didi behind a car as chaos erupted around them. His men returned fire, and she heard someone shouting in Korean, orders being barked. "Get her out of here!" Sang-woo yelled to Dong-hyun, who appeared from nowhere. "Take her back to the penthouse, lock it down!" "No, I'm not leaving you!" Didi clung to him even as Dong-hyun tried to pull her away. "You have to. I can't focus if I'm worried about you getting hurt." Sang-woo kissed her one more time. "Go. I'll come back to you. I promise." Dong-hyun physically carried her to a car as more gunfire erupted. Didi screamed Sang-woo's name, watching him disappear back into the chaos with his men. The last thing she saw before the car sped away was him standing in the middle of the street, facing down Kuang Min's forces, with an expression of cold fury that was terrifying and magnificent. Back at the penthouse, Didi paced and cried and prayed to a god she wasn't sure was listening. Dong-hyun stayed with her, his phone constantly buzzing with updates he wouldn't share. "Is he okay?" she kept asking. "Please, just tell me if he's okay." "The boss can handle himself," Dong-hyun said, but his tight expression betrayed his worry. Hours passed. Dawn broke over the city, and finally, the door opened and Sang-woo walked in. He was exhausted, bloody, his suit ruined, but alive. Didi ran to him, checking for injuries, crying and laughing at the same time. "You're okay. Thank God, you're okay. It's over. Kuang Min is leaving Austin. We reached an understanding." Sang-woo held her tight. "And I made something very clear to everyone in this city. You are mine. I am yours. And anyone who has a problem with that can answer to me directly. Your aunt can accept it or leave. I'm done letting other people dictate my life." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes intense. "I love you, Didi. I'm in love with you. And I'm going to marry you if you'll have me." Her heart stopped. "What? Marry me?" Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Be my family. Let me be yours and your baby's." He kissed her softly. "I know it's fast. I know it's crazy, but I've never been more certain of anything. Yes." The word came out without thought, straight from her heart. "Yes, I'll marry you." They held each other. As the sun rose, two broken people who'd found something whole in each other. The battles weren't over. Jian was still opposed. Dangers still lurked. Life was still complicated. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And that was enough. Dee woke to cramping pain that made her gasp. For a moment, she thought it was just the baby kicking hard as usual. Then another pain, sharper this time, gripped her belly, and she knew with terrible certainty that something was wrong. "Sang-woo!" she called out, her voice tight with fear. He was instantly awake beside her, his eyes alert. "What's wrong?" "Something's not right. The baby." Another cramp made her cry out. "It hurts." Sang-woo was already moving, calling for his driver while helping her dress. "How far along are you now?" 34 weeks. It's too early." Panic clawed at Dee's chest. "The baby can't come yet. It's too early." "Stay calm. We're going to the hospital right now." His voice was steady, but she could see the fear in his eyes as he helped her to the elevator. The ride to the hospital was a blur of pain and terror. Sang-woo held her hand, whispering reassurances that neither of them believed. When they arrived, he carried her through the emergency entrance, shouting for help in a voice that made everyone jump to attention. Doctors and nurses swarmed around her. Dee heard medical terms she didn't understand: premature labor, possible placental issues, fetal distress. They wheeled her to a delivery room, and through the haze of pain and fear, she clung to Sang-woo's hand. "Don't leave me," she begged. "Never. I'm right here." He kissed her forehead, her hands, staying beside her even as nurses tried to make him leave. "I'm not going anywhere." The next hours were agony. The contractions came faster, harder. The doctors worked frantically to slow the labor, but the baby was determined to come. Dee had never been so scared in her life, not when she'd fled Rwanda, not when Marcus had abandoned her, not even when Kuang Min's men had fired guns around them. "I can't do this," she sobbed between contractions. "I'm not ready. I don't know how to be a mother." "Yes, you do." Sang-woo's voice was fierce in her ear. "You've been fighting for this baby since the moment you knew they existed. You gave up everything to protect them. You're already an incredible mother. But what if something goes wrong? What if I lose them? Then we'll face it together. But right now, you need to fight. Fight for your baby. Show them how strong their mother is." The words gave her something to hold on to. When the doctor said it was time to push, Dee poured every ounce of strength she had left into bringing her baby into the world. Sang-woo stayed beside her the whole time, letting her crush his hand, whispering encouragement, being her anchor when the pain threatened to sweep her away. And then, after what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, a cry filled the room. Tiny, furious, and absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, placing the baby on Dee's chest. Small but feisty, just like her mother. Dee looked down at her daughter, so tiny, so red and wrinkled and beautiful it made her heart hurt. The baby had a thick head of black hair and lungs that clearly worked just fine despite being premature. "Hi, little one," Dee whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm your mama, and I love you so much." She looked up to see Sang-woo staring at the baby with an expression of complete wonder. His eyes were wet with tears he didn't bother hiding. "She's perfect," he breathed. "Absolutely perfect." The nurses took the baby to check her vitals and make sure she was healthy despite the early arrival. Sang-woo stayed with Didi as the doctors finished up, still holding her hand like he might never let go. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for fighting, for being so strong, for letting me be here." "This is your family now, too," Didi said, exhausted, but happier than she'd ever been. "If you still want us." "If I still want you?" He kissed her softly. "Didi, you and that little girl are everything I want. Everything I never knew I needed." A commotion outside the delivery room made them both tense. Raised voices, someone arguing with hospital security. Then Jian burst through the door, her face pale with something that might have been worry. "Sang-woo, I came as soon as Dong-hyun called." She stopped when she saw Didi in the bed, clearly exhausted from delivery. "Is the baby?" "She's fine. Healthy. Beautiful." Sang-woo's voice was cool. "Not that you cared." Jian flinched at the accusation. "I cared. I was wrong to say otherwise." She moved closer, her expression uncertain in a way Didi had never seen. "May I see her?" Didi wanted to say no, to protect her daughter from this woman who'd been so cruel. But she saw something in Jian's eyes that gave her pause, genuine emotion breaking through the ice. "She's in the nursery, being checked by the doctors." Didi's voice was cold. "You can look from the window if you want." Jian nodded and left without another word. Sang-woo started to follow, clearly ready to enforce boundaries, but Didi stopped him. "Let her go. Let her see what she almost made you walk away from." Through the window of the delivery room, they could see Jian standing at the nursery window, staring at the tiny baby girl. And slowly, watching this woman who'd been nothing but hostile, Didi saw something shift. Jian's hand pressed against the glass, and when she turned back toward them, her face was streaked with tears. She returned to the delivery room, her composure shattered. "She looks like Sang-woo did when he was born. My sister's baby. I held him for the first time in a hospital just like this." Her voice broke. "I told myself I was protecting him by pushing you away, that I was doing what was best for the family. But really, I was just afraid. Afraid that if he built a life with you, he wouldn't need the family anymore. Wouldn't need me." "Aunt Jian," Sang-woo started, but she held up her hand. "Let me finish. I was wrong. Wrong about you. Wrong about Didi. Wrong about everything." She looked at Didi directly. "You're strong and brave, and you love him genuinely. That's more than any suitable Korean woman from a good family could offer. And I'm sorry. Truly sorry for the cruel things I said." Didi didn't know what to say. This was the last thing she'd expected. "I'm not asking for forgiveness right away," Jian continued. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a chance to be part of this family you're building, to be the aunt I should have been from the beginning." Sang-woo looked at Didi, letting her make the choice. She thought about her own family in Rwanda, about how they'd rejected her for choosing her own path, about how sometimes family wasn't about blood, but about who showed up when it mattered. "One chance," Didi said finally. "But if you hurt my daughter, or Sang-woo, we're done. Understand?" "I understand." Jian bowed her head. "Thank you." Over the next few days, as Didi recovered and the baby grew stronger, an unexpected transformation occurred. Jian visited every day, bringing gifts, offering help, slowly proving that her change of heart was genuine. She taught Didi Korean lullabies and told stories about Sang-woo's childhood that made him blush and protest. "My nephew was such a serious child," Jian said, her eyes warm with memory. "Always trying to be strong, to take care of everyone. Even after his parents died, he never cried in front of anyone. But sometimes I would hear him at night, and I would sit outside his door and wait until he fell asleep. Sang-woo's jaw tightened with emotion. I didn't know you did that. Of course you didn't. You were a child trying to be a man, just like you're a man now trying to be everything to everyone. Jian squeezed his hand. But you don't have to do it alone anymore. You have Dee, you have your daughter, and you have me if you'll let me back in. The moment was interrupted by Hyun bursting into the hospital room, his expression urgent. Boss, we have a problem. Kuang Min was supposed to leave Austin, but he's still here. And he's been asking questions about the hospital, about when Dee is being discharged. The temperature in the room dropped. Sang-woo's expression went from tender to dangerous in seconds. He's targeting my family. It looks that way. He's desperate. We destroyed his operations, forced him into hiding. He wants revenge, and he thinks hurting them will accomplish that. Then we end this, tonight. Sang-woo stood, already shifting into the cold, calculating leader Dee had only glimpsed before. Double security on this room. Nobody gets in who isn't on my personal approved list. Not doctors, not nurses, nobody. Sang-woo, you can't go after him now, Dee pleaded. What if something happens to you? We need you. Which is exactly why I have to handle this. As long as Kuang Min is out there, you and our daughter are in danger. I won't allow that. He kissed her forehead. Trust me, I'll come back. Boss, I'm coming with you, Hyun said. No, you stay here. Protect them. That's more important than backup. Sang-woo's eyes were hard. I'm ending this my way, alone. He left before anyone could argue further. Jian sat down in the chair beside Dee's bed, her face pale. He shouldn't go alone. It's too dangerous. Can you stop him? Nobody can stop him when he's like this. When someone threatens his family, he becomes someone else. Someone I taught him to be. Jian's voice was heavy with regret. I raised him to be strong, to never show weakness, to handle threats with overwhelming force. But I never taught him that asking for help isn't weakness. Dee looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in the hospital bassinet, completely unaware of the danger surrounding her. He'll come back. He has to. Hours passed with no word. Dee couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. She just held her daughter and tried not to imagine the worst. Hyun paced outside the room, his phone silent. Jian sat quietly, her hands clasped in prayer. Dawn was breaking when Sang-woo finally returned. He was bloody, his clothes torn, moving like every step hurt. But he was alive and smiling. It's done, he said, sinking into the chair beside the bed. Kuang Min is gone. He won't be coming back to Austin or bothering us ever again. Are you hurt? Dee reached for him, checking for injuries. Nothing serious, just tired. He looked at his daughter, his expression softening. I did it for her. For you. So we could have a life without constantly looking over our shoulders. What happens now? Dee asked. To your organization? To everything? Now I make changes. Step back from the dangerous parts. Focus on the legitimate businesses. I want to be here for you and our daughter. I want to be the father she deserves. He took Dee's hand. I want the life we talked about. The real one, not the one where I'm always one step away from prison or worse. Jian stood, placing her hand on Sang-woo's shoulder. I'll help. I have contacts in Korea who can smooth the transition, take over the operations you want to leave behind. It's time for you to live, nephew. Really live. Sang-woo looked at Dee, at their daughter, at the family he'd built from nothing. Yeah, it's time. Marcus tried one last time to cause trouble, showing up at the hospital claiming parental rights. But the documents he'd signed were ironclad, and Sang-woo's lawyers were waiting. Marcus left with his tail between his legs, threatening legal action he'd never be able to afford. And through it all, Didi held her daughter, leaned on Sang-woo, and slowly let herself believe that maybe happy endings were possible after all. 6 months later, Didi stood in front of the mirror in Sang-woo's penthouse, barely recognizing herself. The woman looking back wore a stunning wedding dress that blended Korean and Rwandan traditions, white silk with traditional Rwandan patterns embroidered in gold thread, paired with a delicate Korean-style joggery jacket. Her natural hair was styled in intricate braids woven with gold thread, and her makeup was subtle but radiant. "You look like a princess," Jian said from the doorway, her voice warm with genuine affection. Over the past months, she'd proven her change of heart repeatedly, helping with the baby, teaching Didi about Korean culture, standing up to anyone who questioned her nephew's choice of bride. They weren't exactly mother and daughter, but they'd found their own kind of family. "I feel like I'm going to throw up," Didi admitted. "What if I trip walking down the aisle? What if I mess up the Korean ceremony parts?" "Then you laugh and keep going. That's what family does." Jian adjusted the jade jewelry at Didi's throat, a family heirloom she'd given freely, with tears in her eyes. "You've faced down much worse than a wedding ceremony." From the other room, baby Zara started crying. At 6 months old, she was the perfect blend of Didi and genetics that didn't matter, because Sang-woo loved her like she was his blood. He'd legally adopted her last month, his name now on her birth certificate where Marcus's had been. The ceremony had been small and private, but Didi had watched Sang-woo cry openly as he signed the papers, declaring Zara his daughter in every way that mattered. "I'll get her," Dong-hyun's voice came from the nursery. He'd become the world's most unlikely babysitter, tough and intimidating to everyone except Zara, who decided his stern face was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. The wedding was taking place at Sang-woo's private estate outside Austin, a property Didi hadn't even known existed until he'd brought her here 2 months ago. It had gardens that stretched for acres, a traditional Korean pavilion beside a tranquil pond, and enough space for the intimate gathering they'd planned. The guest list was small but meaningful, a few members of Sang-woo's organization who'd become friends. Dorothy from the diner, who'd cried for 10 minutes straight when she received her invitation. Mrs. Chen from Didi's old apartment building. And several members of the local Rwandan community who'd reached out to Didi after hearing her story, offering the family connection she'd thought she'd lost forever. "It's time," Jian said gently. "Are you ready?" Didi looked at herself one more time. 6 months ago, she'd been broken and alone, working 3 jobs and counting pennies. Now she was marrying a man who'd moved heaven and earth to keep her safe, who loved her daughter as his own, who'd changed his entire life to build a future with them. "I'm ready." The ceremony was beautiful, blending traditions in ways that honored both their backgrounds. They did the Korean pieback ceremony, bowing to Jian and accepting her blessing with jujubes and chestnuts, symbolizing children and good fortune. Then they incorporated Rwandan traditions, the exchange of words about building a home together, the blessing with milk and honey, the promises made in Kinyarwanda that made the Rwandan guests weep. But the part that made Didi cry was when Sang-woo added something unexpected. He turned to Zara, who Dong-hyun held at the front of the gathering, and spoke directly to her. "Zara, you came into my life as a gift I didn't know I needed. Today I'm not just marrying your mother. I'm promising to be the father you deserve, to protect you, guide you, love you, and embarrass you with dad jokes when you're older." The guests laughed through their tears. "You are my daughter in every way that matters, and I will spend my life making sure you know how precious you are." He took Zara from Dong-hyun, holding her carefully as he and Didi exchanged their final vows. When the officiant pronounced them married, they kissed with their daughter between them. An imperfect, beautiful moment that summed up their entire story. The reception was joyful and intimate. Sang-woo had hired a DJ who played everything from traditional Korean music to Rwandan beats to American pop. Dee watched in amazement as Jian danced with Dong-hyun, both of them laughing in a way she'd never have imagined 6 months ago. Dorothy cornered her during dinner. "I knew that day in the diner," she said, squeezing Dee's hand. "I saw the way he looked at you even then. Like you were something precious he'd been searching for his whole life." "I'm still waiting to wake up," Dee admitted, "for this to be a dream. Honey, you earned this happiness. Don't ever forget that." Dorothy's eyes were fierce. "You showed kindness when you had nothing. You fought for love when everyone said to give up. This isn't luck. It's reward for being brave enough to believe you deserved better." The evening wore on with toasts and laughter, and more food than anyone could eat. Sang-woo had hired Dee's favorite Rwandan chef to cater alongside his Korean restaurant, creating a fusion menu that represented their blended future. As the sun set, Sang-woo pulled Dee away from the crowd to the Korean pavilion by the pond. Zara was asleep in Jian's arms, content and safe. "Happy?" he asked, pulling her close, deliriously. Dee rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real. It's real, and it's ours." He tilted her chin up, his eyes intense in the fading light. "I have something to tell you." Her heart skipped. "What?" "I finalized the papers today. The space downtown, the one near the market. It's yours, for your catering business." At her shocked expression, he smiled. "I wanted to wait until today to tell you. It's my wedding gift, your dream, ready for you to build whenever you're ready." Sang-woo. Dee couldn't find words. He'd given her so much already. Love, family, security. But this was different. This was believing in her dreams enough to make them tangible. "You're going to be an amazing businesswoman, just like you're an amazing mother and wife," he kissed her softly. "I can't wait to watch you build your empire." They stood there as the stars came out, wrapped in each other, and the promise of forever. Behind them, the party continued. Ahead of them, a future neither had dared imagine 6 months ago. "Thank you," Dee whispered, "for seeing me when I felt invisible. For loving me when I didn't think I was worth loving. For fighting for us when everyone said to give up. Thank you for paying for a stranger's meal in a diner," Sang-woo replied, his voice rough with emotion. "For being brave enough to accept help. For giving me a family when I'd forgotten what that felt like. For loving me despite knowing what I am. Because of what you are. All of it. The good, the complicated, the dangerous. You're not perfect, but you're perfect for us." They kissed as the moon rose, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, who'd fought through every obstacle, who'd chosen love over fear again and again. A year later, Dee's catering business was thriving, with a waiting list for her unique fusion of Rwandan and Korean cuisines. Sang-woo had successfully transitioned most of his organization to legitimate operations, serving as a consultant and investor rather than hands-on leader. Jian had moved to Austin permanently, unable to stand being away from her granddaughter, because that's what she called Zara now, without qualification or hesitation. And on a warm spring evening, as they sat in their backyard watching Zara take her first wobbly steps, Dee felt Sang-woo's hand on her slightly rounded belly. "How far along?" he asked quietly. 10 weeks. I was going to surprise you this weekend." She turned to look at him, seeing joy and wonder in his eyes. "Are you happy?" "Happy? Dee, I'm complete. You gave me everything I was missing. Love, purpose, family. And now you're giving me another miracle." He kissed her deeply, then louder so Zara could hear. Did you hear that, Zara? You're going to be a big sister." Zara clapped her hands and giggled, not understanding the words but responding to her parents' joy. Jian and Hyun, who'd been having tea on the patio, came over to investigate the excitement. When Didi told them about the baby, Jian actually cried, pulling her into a fierce hug. "My family grows. Thank you for giving this old woman reasons to smile every day." Hyun, ever pragmatic, just nodded. "I'll start preparing the nursery security protocols tomorrow." They all laughed, because of course he would. But that was their family, blended, imperfect, built from broken pieces into something stronger than any of them could have been alone. That night, after Zara was asleep and the house was quiet, Sangwoo and Didi lay in bed talking about the future, about names for the baby, about expansion plans for her business, about maybe buying a vacation home in Korea so Zara could know her heritage. "Do you ever regret it?" Didi asked suddenly. "Giving up so much of your old life for this?" "Never." Sangwoo's answer was immediate. That old life was about power and respect through fear. This life is about love and respect through choice. I choose you every day, Didi. I choose this family. And I'd make that choice 1,000 times over. She snuggled closer, breathing in his familiar scent. "I love you. I love you more. Impossible. Want to bet?" And as they laughed and argued playfully about whose love was bigger, the baby Didi had been carrying alone just a year ago slept peacefully down the hall, secure in a home filled with love. The baby growing inside her now would be born into a family that knew how to fight for each other, how to forgive, how to build bridges across cultures and expectations. It had started with $40 in a diner and a simple act of kindness. It had survived abandonment, threats, family opposition, and actual gunfire. And it had transformed into something neither of them could have predicted, a love story that proved the best endings come from the bravest beginnings. Didi fell asleep that night, with Sangwoo's arms around her, their future bright and full of possibility. She'd paid for a stranger's food and gotten a family in return. The best investment she'd ever made. Thank you so much for joining us on Didi and Sangwoo's journey. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more beautiful love stories. Drop a comment telling us what part made you cry the most. And don't forget to share this with someone who believes in the power of love conquering all odds.